touching on the top prop bets in the NBA today. Welcome into March, NBA DFS. Honestly, guys, is March the best sports month there is? We got the Players Championship, got WrestleMania, whatever. Some people might not call that sport. It's fun. March Madness, you got the NFL Combine. It's a lot of fun. MLB starts. Just a lot of fun stuff. You got pretty much teams starting to tank or make the playoffs in NBA. It's just a fun time for me, at least as a sports fan. And also for me living in the Midwest, that means no more snow for the most part. But let's get into today's board. Besides like PGA, which I'll touch on in this video, but I also go more in depth in a separate PGA video, not really any free squares, okay? NHL wise, no good bets. Okay, college basketball, 2 good bets. And so NBA-wise, we do have a couple that are fine, but should be a kind of an easier video. So let's just go ahead and get into the college basketball bets real quick. So the 2 good college basketball lines I was able to find are both unders. Okay, so Jalen Hill under 5.5 rebounds. This is favored at -140. It's an okay bet. If you want to make it, you can. And then this one as well, under 2.5 rebounds at -140 as well. Okay, I just like to give you guys the best bets that we're getting on the day if they're out there. If you guys choose to use them, that's really up to you. So let's go ahead and just talk about some PGA bets real quick. So we had the Arnold Palmer Invitational, which is typically an event that does play more difficult. Now, I would say these strokes are pretty much right. Now, the weather isn't going to play a big difference in round 1, so it's kind of tough to gauge whether we should be betting strokes or not. I'll pull up the 9 to 5 PGA PrizePicks prop cheat sheet here. And so if we just sort it by edge, we can see we do have some bets that are going to be some good edge bets. Now, just looking at the strokes here, it is favoring the over a little bit, it would seem. Basically, though, what I want to do is players that are playing in the afternoon wave, typically it just plays harder. Events play harder in the afternoon, and maybe the wind does pick up. And so the nice thing about PrizePicks is that it'll give us the tee times. So someone like Hideki is a very interesting one because although it's not much, he is projected to get over. I mean, it is tiny, 0.1 or 0.1. That is not much. But the thing with Hideki is that Hideki is currently battling some injuries. It seems like before every tournament, though, Hideki is battling some sort of injury. But given the fact that he has a later tee time, given the fact that he's already projected to get over slightly, and then given the fact that he's a little bit banged up, it would be not shocking if he was over 771.5 stroke. And then JT, he is someone that is very hit or miss, okay? He could go off, no doubt about that. But he is currently projected to be one of the best bets on the board. So, not a terrible bet there as well. He has been struggling in round 1. And that's to say, guys, he is very hit or miss. Like, it wouldn't be shocking if he has the first round lead. It wouldn't be shocking if he struggles in round 1. Just want to make that very clear. And then from there, like, we can make some bets. Like, the course does play difficult, but like Jon Rahm, best player in the world right now. Can he shoot 70? Sure. But at the same time, probably a strong bet to do the over. Now there is a very interesting bet that you could do. So like the birdie or better matchup with Shane Lowry is a very intriguing one here. More times than not, and I've noticed that the birdie or better matchups, they have it as birdie or better for a reason. It's not strokes, okay? It's birdie or better. They have that for a reason, okay? It wouldn't be shocking if they tie, and I have noticed that these are about 50-50 for the most part, okay? We have the smallest edge here, percent-wise, is what I've noticed. But Jon Rahm should be able to beat Shane Lowry birdie or better, okay? Best player in the world versus someone who's had two good events in a row, and then prior to that, 2 bad events in a row. So that's probably the best one that we got. You could do Tony Finau over Corey Connors as well. Those are 2 pretty strong bets that we're getting. I really don't mind those. And then Max Homa, like these are actually pretty good lines. Like Max Homa, Tony Finau, Jon Rahm, I like those. Like if 2 out of 3 of those hit, we're happy. And then for what it's worth, I mean, we are getting some birdie or better ones, but we can see basically these are right. Okay, they are pretty much right. Now I will say once again, if the course does play as difficult as it's projected to play, it is tough to see Jon Rahm getting 5 birdies. Okay, can he shoot 4? Sure. It's going to be tough for him to get 5 birdies on this course. And then for what it's worth, I mean, Matt Fitzpatrick has been battling a little bit of the injury bug as well. But he is someone that I would say if he had the afternoon tee time, I'd feel much better about it. But if he is still kind of banged up, which it kind of seems like he is, it wouldn't be shocking to see him struggle. And we can see that, round by round, he has struggled there as well. Okay, so now we get into the NBA DFS side of it. So as it sits right now, I wouldn't say we have a full board just yet. So like we have a lot of games on this slate, and right now the PrizePicks board is not fully populated just yet. Okay, so maybe I'll do another afternoon video, but really, guys, that really just depends on the board. if we are getting some good bets and it's worthwhile for your time and my time, I can do that video. But as it says right now, it doesn't seem like it will be, but you never know. And so that's just it, guys. If I come out with the afternoon videos, because there are better bets to be made than there were in the morning. So if we pull this up here and just sorting by which bets we got here, the best one odds wise for over would be Terry Rozier over 5.5 assists. Now, once again, I don't know if I want to add in the per 36 numbers or not. If we were, I'm sure this would be over. So let me go ahead and look at his per 36 numbers. And what I mean by that is we know Ball is going to be out. Mason Plumlee's no longer there. And PJ Washington, currently a game time decision, not expected to start or play. So if that holds up, then Terry Rozier could actually be a better one. But looking at it, guys, only 5.3 assists per 36 with those players off the court. Now, he does see a huge increase in usage, about 7.7%, but maybe the move would just be a Dennis Smith Jr. bet. Okay, so we can see very much some peaks and valleys here. Probably a bet that we would be forcing in there if we were trying to make that. So, not the best bet that we got. Chris Paul on paper is the best bet that we are getting. Okay, so looking at it, assists, he's favored by minus 128, a decent number. But the fact is that the projections are showing that he should be over as well, 9.14. Far from a lock and load as well, but we can see all the metrics that we use are kind of favoring him to be over in that game as well. So probably the best bet that we have on the board today. Does feel like we're forcing it. Does feel like a bet that I don't feel like we have to make. And then just another one, just to call it out, minus 124, DeAndre Ayton over 11.5 rebounds, projected to get 12.83. And the thing is, obviously he gets a great matchup going against Charlotte. And, they're already without Plumlee. Mark Williams is a stud in the making, it seems like, but I don't think he's going to hinder any sort of production for DeAndre Ayton. So that'd probably be a prop that we were looking at. And I'm actually just curious about that game line here. Okay, so there is definitely a potential for a blowout. So maybe, let's see what the first half bet is. Maybe we do a first half bet, and we're not getting any rebounds ones. But let's see points, rebounds, and assists. So what he's projected to get, about 12.8. The line set 11.5. So that's about 6 rebounds in the first half. Yeah, maybe fantasy score. Let's see what that is. Probably could go fantasy score first half. And so once again, guys, the reason why I would attack a first half bet, and the only time I really like to attack a first half bet, is when we have a game in which is going to be a blowout. And then we can attack the team that's favored to win via blowout. The reason I don't like to do that is because we are reducing the sample size from a player by a half. I think Trae Young last night for the Taco is a perfect example of that. Had 8 points, I think, at the end of the first half, then went off and had whatever amount of points he had. We don't like to reduce the sample size. We want the full game. But in a situation like this where the game is projected to be a blowout, by doing the first half, we don't really have to worry about a player not getting his final rotation. And that's key. Minutes are key in NBA DFS. I think everyone knows that, but it's always good to reiterate it. And so could we do points, rebounds, and assist at 28.5? I mean, maybe it's tight. Probably not. Probably not. So he averages 24.5 points per 36 and about 5.3 rebounds per 36 with Ball, Plumlee, and PJ Washington off the court. So probably just not one that we want to make. I think Dennis Smith Jr. is going to see a strong increase in usage and production. He's probably the one that we'd want to use. And then from there, just not that many great ones, okay ones, shoulder shrug ones. If you end up on them, you end up on them. But in betting, you don't have to do that. So looking at it, let's see, Al Horford, okay bet. He is projected to get under 5.4 rebounds. The line is set at 5.5. The under odds are set at minus 135. So not a terrible one. But once again, I would like that edge to be much bigger. Okay, it does feel like we're forcing that a little bit. Let's continue on here. And this one is definitely an interesting one here. So Donovan Mitchell over points. Okay, we can see that the average sportsbook line is favoring 26.2, whereas PrizePicks has it set at 25.5. That's favored the over by minus 122. Good odds there. He is projected, though, to only get a slight amount more. So, yes, this is a bet in which we can see kind of checking all the boxes, but also a bet in which would be a little bit forcing it. It's not a lock and load. Good bet, not a great bet, and that's why it says good bet. Yes. And then from there, just not really any good ones. Let's see, any under bets? No. This isn't terrible, I guess. No, just that'd be forcing it. So let's just see if we have any fantasy projection-based props that we can make. And once again, we don't have the full board just yet, but looking at it, and I don't know. So bam, we could use. And guys, for what it's worth, the best prop bets from yesterday, fantasy point wise, they all hit pretty much. Josh Giddey under, Brooke over, Claxton over, Naismith over. So this is this has been pretty solid. I would say more times than not, if you're using this, you're going to have some success. I just don't know with Bam or Melton there for that instance as well. So looking at Bam, these two teams just met in the previous game. Bam struggled 4 for 14. That's terrible. Was much lower on his average rebounds per game. So we could look at this two ways. We could say had an off night, 5 turnovers, 3 personal fouls, not a really good game. And I wouldn't say that's a terrible argument. You could make that argument. And I'm trying to see, have they played each other a different game in which Bam played? I'm not seeing it. And if you want to make that argument, like Bam, not a terrible bet here. Like we can see, typically speaking, he's a pretty good player. Now, since the All-Star break, been kind of bad. And what happened? Kevin Love happened. Now, Kevin Love currently probable. If he were to sit, I would feel like that would help Bam's projection a little bit. And this is kind of I want to reiterate this because this is kind of the difficult part of post All-Star game, post trade deadline, DFS props and whatnot, is that we don't exactly know what to expect from teams. I think the Thunder last night was a perfect example of that. Basically, no one got over 30 minutes. Okay. It's just like, what are we doing there? Josh Giddey, who was, the cover boy for the live stream, was favored to get under points. He got 24 minutes. So it's difficult. And so rotation wise, it does seem like Kevin Love is actually kind of hurting Bam Adebayo's fantasy production. Okay. And so I just want to reiterate that there are more question marks right now than there were prior to the All-Star break with a lot of these teams. Our teams tanking, our teams trying to get looks at players, our teams trying to figure out their playoff rotation, our teams trying to make the playoffs, our teams trying to rest players for the playoffs. Like there's so many more little independent variables that are going into each prop, more so than they previously were. So like, even though it's like highly projected that he gets over, I'm probably staying away from that one. Now, Melton, I don't hate. Okay, so average minutes 24.5, projected at 27.2. PrizePicks line is set at 17. So he does average a decent amount. Obviously, we know he is someone that's highly productive when the starters are out. And by that, I mean when Harden's out, when Maxi's out, he is the player that kind of steps up. And so looking at this is not a great matchup, but at the same time, if he's going to get these minutes and shoot that many 3-ball attempts, like 5, 4, we need more than this here. 5, like we would take that. And so if the minutes continue to be there for him, then this is not a terrible prop. I don't love it. Does feel like we'd be forcing it slightly. But last time out against Miami, did get the over. That was due to rebounds or that was due to blocks and steals, 3 total, but could happen again. And so the next one that you saw there was Tyler Hero. Had a terrible game last game. He is kind of very much hit or miss, probably someone that I want to stay away from. So you guys can see like why I don't love this slate too much. And now on the flip side of that, let's look at Gordon Hayward. I find this one very interesting. So Gordon Hayward's prop line is set at 32.5. Can he get there? Certainly can get there. But this is kind of a Josh Giddey situation where does he get more fantasy points per 36 with him off the court, with Bell off the court, with Plumlee off the court, with Washington off the court? Yes. Average about 3.5-ish more fantasy points per 36. So if we look at his average, based off his minutes, he would get 28.1. We add on about 4. He would get over this. No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't. He'd just be right under it. Okay. So the other part of this equation is that spread, that 10-point spread. If that does occur, will Gordon Hayward get that final rotation? Will he get that full allotment of around 32 minutes? That's the biggest question that we have. And with how banged up the Charlotte Hornets have been, it wouldn't be surprising to see them just kind of say, toss their hands up. We are spreading out the minutes. Do what OKC did last night. And in that scenario, I think, Dennis Smith would be a good play. There'd just be a lot of good options. And so to me, the best 2 bets in this game would actually be looking at someone like DeAndre Ayton over fantasy points. Just going against Charlotte, this is a good matchup. We know that. We've been wanting to target bigs against Charlotte this whole season. If you've been doing that, you've been successful. It doesn't seem like they ever give us a good enough prop line. We can see just went off for 43 against Milwaukee. That's difficult. Now, you're seeing this against OKC, only 34. That's, we don't love that. It should be flipped, right? And then the next one, I don't hate Mark Williams. Actually, Mark Williams would probably be the best one that we'd be looking at on tonight's slate. So looking at it right now, Mark Williams already has a slight edge, okay? Projected to get 29.1 minutes. He averages 16.8, so not a lot. But just going based off of his projected minutes, he should be able to get over. And if we were to throw in the per 36 numbers in there as well, he is someone that averages about 5 to 6 fantasy points more per 36 with Washington, with Plumlee, with Ball off the court. Now, is he going to get 36 minutes? No, we're showing the projection at 29. But still, that's about, what, 3 more fantasy points? He should be able to get over here. The issue is obviously going against DeAndre Ayton, could get into foul trouble and whatnot. It's far from a lock and load, but it's probably the best bet that we are getting on tonight's slate. Now, Nick Richards could play as well. Definitely not a lock and load, but definitely not a terrible bet as well. We look at the last game against Phoenix. These are pretty good numbers for him. Obviously, very small sample size, only 6 minutes, but that's 6 points, 2 rebounds, right? And guys, if PGA Washington is active, that changes the whole dynamic of this bet. So it could be one that, I don't know, maybe we wait and see, but then we're not getting the best lines on it probably. And then I did see some more lines pop up here. I'm going to go ahead and refresh my data. You guys won't see this with the edit in the video, but I'm going to go ahead and do that, see if we have any good props popping up that way. All right, so I did just refresh it. Let's see if we're getting any better ones. Not really. Garland, maybe. I could actually see that. It's just right now, it does seem like we'd be kind of just forcing in bets. So if we include the per 36 numbers for Gordon Hayward, it would suggest that he's going to be under. And same thing for Terry Rozier. And once again, with those 2 Charlotte bets, my assumption is that they're just going to spread the minutes out. And so we also have Kelly Oubre back. He could easily get 30 minutes and really just go off. So I wouldn't say it's like guaranteed that Terry Rozier goes off. Now, if he does, he's going to go for this. He's like going to go insane. I don't think there's a scenario in which he's close to getting it. Last time out against Phoenix, very close though. Okay, so take that for what it's worth. All right, guys. So I want to make this very clear. I'm probably not going to count today's bets on the counter in the link in the description below, because right now it does feel like we're forcing it. Now, I do feel like these are good enough to hit. So if you guys want to use them, you can. I want this section to be a very strong kind of confidence section that we are literally placing bets on there when we are getting the best bets we can possible for that day. And I just don't feel like we are getting that just yet. Now, I don't mind under Terry Rozier and under Gordon Hayward. That would be something I would do in a stack, because you could easily do under for Terry Rozier here, under for Gordon Hayward there. Thus, you could go over for Mark Williams, and then you could also potentially do DeAndre Ayton over first half points. And so for me, I actually don't mind the idea of over first half points for DeAndre Ayton going against Charlotte. Okay, obviously he's been able to do that 4 out of the last 5 games. That's great. We'll take that for sure. And so my thing is that if it's a blowout, he's not going to get the final rotation. The issue as well is KD's expected back tonight, I believe. So what is that going to do? How's that going to change the dynamic of that team as well? And they just put Kevin Durant in there, 17.5 for Kevin Durant, which if he's getting a full allotment of minutes, that's very cheap. Like, he's the star on this team, right? Interesting there. Interesting there. PrizePicks content, geez, man, the boards populate and it's crazy. Even this seems very low. I'd probably do the first half ones if we're trying to do a KD bet. But all right, I do like the Mark Williams bet. That would be one I'm fine placing. That's probably my favorite bet on the day NBA wise as it sits right now. I do think we're going to get better ones. Probably would change. So I'd be fine using the Mark Williams over fantasy points here, and then maybe using it with one of these really good golf props. Like, more times than not, I would say 65% of the time, Jon Rahm is going to have more birdies than Shane Lowry. Okay, so I'm fine taking that. And then also with Hideki, with him playing in the afternoon wave, I do think it makes sense to bet the over strokes there as well. So those are the 3 bets. Once again, I don't love them. You can make them if you want to. Rahm, more birdies than Shane Lowry. Hideki, higher strokes. So over 71.5. And it's the par 72 course, typically plays about 2 to 3 strokes over par. So take that for what it's worth. If he's banged up, like the reports are suggesting, not going to get over. And then as it sits right now, my favorite one would be Mark Williams, 29. Okay, that's what we got. And so I do wish I could give you guys more of a, yes, these are the best bets, but it's just, sometimes we don't have that. Okay. And, this game is very much about managing our bankroll. And so that kind of seems like the day that we have today as it sits right now. And if that changes throughout the day, I will come out with another video. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing.